I always felt that I didn't belong to the household, to the family I was born into. I didn't belong to the group of friends I was associated with. I always felt like on the outside most of the time.
When life's visible and hidden battles make you doubt that peace, love, and full-on living are possible, We Win Within brings the proof. Guests crack open their great stories that may overlap with what each of us carries, sharing raw truths, hard-won discoveries, and triumphs that illuminate the road for us all. I'm Hindi Stegman, daughter of Holocaust survivors, speaker, coach, and fellow journeyer in life, inviting you to listen, look inside, and claim the champion already rising in your heart.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Hindi Stegman, and I'm your host for the We Win Within podcast. And today we have an amazing guest. It's Connie Osterholt. And Connie's going to take us on her journey of how she came from point A to where she is today. Let's call it point, I don't know what. So, Connie, take it away. Tell me.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm, excited about it. Is there anything where you want to start? You mentioned my childhood, right?
I always like to start with childhood because I believe that who we are today, we're a product of our childhood. We may have made adjustments and changes so that we're not exactly where we came from, but that is the foundation. So let's talk about your foundation.
Okay, so when you hear by my voice that I'm from, not from America, I'm from the Netherlands. So it's, slightly different, but mostly the same as in America. But my childhood was kind of easy. I kind of was flying under the radar, being the middle child, and the oldest and the youngest needed a lot of attention. I didn't. I had friends. I was good in school. I was like, loving sports and being good at it. So it was, in a way, easy, but then again, it was not easy because it also had a feel of me never have to take care of her because she's fine. So that made it a little bit more lonely. And I think that's what it did to me was to become utterly resourceful, having to take care of yourself. No, my parents gave me food and clothes and a roof and all of that and education. So it was not very black and white, but emotionally to take care of yourself. I needed to find my inner strength, and I did. And I came maybe a little bit more introspective or a little bit more internal and also became like the pillar, I was that for myself. So that bled over to having, the strength to help my parents from a very young age. They relied on me. Oh, you go pay this, you go pay that. When we were on holiday, you go in and reserve a room abroad, right? So in my best, like, other than Dutch language, I was reserving a room. So I got a responsibility, not outspoken, but a responsibility to take care of myself and with the strengths I found, be able to take care of other people too. And it was,
How was that, Connie, for you at a young age? Carrying that, knowing that you had that responsibility. Um, was it something that you enjoyed being that special person with that responsibility? Was it a burden? How did you find it?
yeah, it was just what was.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just how it was. It felt I was good at sports, and my parents never came to look at me. They came to look at, my half sister and my younger brother. And at one point, they said, "You never come look at me. You never come look at the games I play. I'm pretty good." So they came once. So that was kind of a little bit the how do you say that? Not the nice part. And I remember I was already 40, so way after my childhood. then it was kind of like I had to talk to my parents. It had been stewing for a long time. And I said to my parents, you never have been telling me that you're proud of me. Aren't you proud of me? Because if I look at my brother and my sister, I did some pretty exciting things. At least they were exciting for me, but they never expressed that that was a good thing or they were proud of me. So on my 40th birthday, while having my parents on a holiday with me on a vacation with me in America, I plucked up the courage and say, hey, aren't you never proud of me? Because you never said that. And of course, they said, oh, we're always proud of you. And we thought you knew. I said, well, when you don't say, you don't know, right? And they gave me a really cute little statue with heads off. So that was, but in 40 years, I lived with the idea that, they weren't proud of me no matter what I did, no matter what I achieved. They were never proud of me. And
You
that
know,
like a
I
hit.
want I want to ask you a question for a second. So many of us children that were born, let's say right after the war,
Yeah.
knew that our parents, it doesn't matter where in Europe they were from or what happened, and we're not going to go into any stories of that right now. But somehow we knew that they had had a rough time. And some of us didn't ask or didn't say. I mean, we were kids. Why didn't I'm saying we because I was like you. I didn't say I was the good girl. I did everything. But it would have been so simple for a child to say, mommy, daddy, whatever, you didn't come to my game. I want you to come to my game. But there was silence.
Yeah.
And until 40, that's a long time to hold on to that.
Long time, and I know people that never asked, so and they now regret it. So yes, it was a very long time, but it also knew, and definitely Europe, right? After the war, and we knew that it's never spoken about, but we knew that there was like heartache and scarcity and hunger and like criminal acts and horror and all of that happening. You knew it, so you kind of, I think as a child, a lot of children are protective of their parents. And I think that protective mechanism kicked in at a young age, like, don't ask, don't do that, just leave them. At some level, we knew that they loved us, and I knew that they loved me, but it was never expressed. And I think that is also the generation, maybe, of our parents that they were not that outspoken. Now you hear, I love you, I love you, I love you all day long, which is fabulous, but it loses a little bit of the power when you hear it so much. But with my parents, I never heard that. You just assumed that that was the case because they did their best for you and they provided for you. So that was their form of showing love and taking care of you. But yeah, we should teach our children to ask.
And what gave you the courage then at age 40? Tell me.
I think the courage was fueled by maybe I was pissed off. I mean, here I am as the middle child. I had a gig, a speaking gig in Florida. We still lived in the Netherlands. And I took my kids and a friend of the kids and my parents all on a vacation while I had to work, right? So there we had a beautiful house on the beach and all of that. And of course they liked it, but I was like, I had 3 day seminar, I think I gave and I was assembling stuff together and doing stuff. I was busy also preparing a little bit. And I just wanted to hear, wow, this is amazing what you did. You have to work and part of the deal is this week, this wonderful week, 2 weeks on the beach. And we're really proud of you. I just wanted them to say it. Not assuming that they were, but I wanted them to say it. I was a little bit pissed off.
And how did it feel once you did that?
Liberating. And like you said, 40 years, why didn't I ask that earlier? I don't know why I didn't ask it earlier. It's kind of a form of respect, I think, for us that you don't ask too much of your children.
It's interesting. It brings to mind, I grew up in a house where I didn't hear I love you either. But when I was older, I went to other people's homes and I heard that in other people's homes. And I decided I want that too. And I didn't know what to do. And I was already out of the house. So probably maybe I was already in my 20s or 30s. I don't even know exactly. And I remember practicing on the phone, picking up the phone as if I'm talking to my mother and saying, I love you, Mom, and hanging up. And I practiced for a while. And finally, I had the courage. And when I spoke with her, I said, Love you, Mom. And it was silence on the other
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm not giving up. Love you, Mom. I don't know how many times. And one time I said, Love you, Mom. And she answered, And I loved you first.
Wow.
And I said, Oh my goodness, I got through. I got through to her. And it felt so good,
Yeah.
you know? And I had to wait also all those years to ask. And the next thing I said is, when I came to their house, I said, I want a hug. That was foreign.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I want a hug. Okay. So it was practice. It was, you know, but
And
I don't know today. Does that go on still today, you think, in this day and age?
um I think our generation has learned not to withhold. And I can understand from my parents in that period of time and being through what they have been through that they had to be careful with what they said, you know? They always had to hold back and hold their emotions back in that period of time. My parents were teenagers in World War II. So I understand their pattern. I'm now very much into psychology. So now looking back, you understand why that was. But I think big part of me was just, well, that's how they are. And till probably like you, I had that, I saw that differently, right? I saw parents, or I had other people saying to me, wow, I'm proud of you. And I was going, wow, if they say they're proud of me, like friends or family, why don't my parents say that? So it's, but I think we've learned from that. And we've learned to encourage our children that they're safe in our love and that they can achieve things. Sometimes I think we go overboard, you know, and do it too much. Like everybody get like a trophy, right? And sometimes they don't. How would you say that? I'm not so much for getting participation trophies. I get like a trophy when you really excel, and people can excel in various areas and on various levels, but that's a whole different story. But I also remember that when my dad passed, he passed, when did he pass? A while ago, like 15 years ago, I think. But then we had our last conversation, and he could hardly talk at the end. But we had our last conversation, and he said what a wonderful daughter I was to him. And I loved it, of course. Those are good parting words, but at the same time, I tell my kids way sooner than they having to wait till I'm on my deathbed. So
Yes.
you're wonderful sons. I'm so happy with you. You're a wonderful father to your child. I say it when it's true, not to just say it, but I definitely don't wait till the latest moment.
So, Connie, what path did you go on as you were growing up? You said you came to a conference. What led you to this conference? What led you on your path? Where did you go?
Yeah, so my dad had the idea that after high school, I should go to finishing school. That was his idea for me, and he was very proud that he could afford that because it's not cheap, right? And finishing school in the Netherlands, I would probably have gone to Switzerland, is learning the languages even further, and sewing and knowing how to deal with a big household. And I had no interest. I was going, that was the biggest disappointment of his life, that I didn't have any interest in going to finishing school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was very good in sports. So I went to become a physical education teacher on a university level. And That was wonderful. That was fun because we did a lot of sports and the theory was all about sociology, psychology, all the biomechanics, all the things that I was really interested in. But then it led to being a teacher and teaching a group of kids. Now I could do that. So that was like a plus because not everybody that is a teacher can teach. So, and the ones we teased mercilessly when we were children, right? So I could teach. That was good. But I didn't see myself as a teacher in that area for a long time, long term. I didn't want to teach kids gymnastics and sports till I was 65. That was not my path. So I was interested in psychology, obviously in physiology. And I found the combination a little bit later because teaching and having small children is wonderful because I could, like, have less hours or more hours and be with the kids mostly. So when the kids were a little bit older, I found that combination of psychology and physiology in the teachings of Tony Robbins. And that's where I went for my first seminar, came home totally enthusiastic, like most people do, and decided to want to go work for him. Lived in the Netherlands, single mom, two kids, so everybody laughed when I said that. And I managed to find a position, and I wrote my letter, my very passionate letter, via fax back then. And I didn't hear anything. And then I think a week later, I got a fax back and it says, I never do this, but your letter was so passionate. I just want you to know that you send it to the wrong number. So
Ah.
I got it back, send it again to the right number, and started with Tony Robbins. And that was part of my life for 25 years. So it was still teaching, it was still with people, but it was helping and teaching in a very different way, which I to this day very much love.
So tell me a little bit about what that was like. I mean, he's a dynamic person and working, I'm sure for many years, there was a lot of growth and learning. What was it that really kept you there? Um, that you stayed and you used the skills that you learned to help so many people. But what was it? What was the glue?
It was a big step because the Netherlands, we're very free-minded, but we still have kind of a traditional conservative system, right? Not conservative like it's in politics, but just traditional. And so you have a certainty of a job, right? That is priced highly in the Netherlands. And then all of a sudden, I had to leave everything and step into the uncertainty of being how I was not an employee, I was freelance, being a freelancer. And what I learned is that in America, more so than in the Netherlands, if you're good, they ask you back. Or not even when you're good, when you do a really great job, they ask you back. And when you don't do that, they, don't need you any longer. So that was for me a challenge that I loved, proving myself over and over and over that I was worth it. I was the first foreigner in the whole company in that position, and that was a specific time where Tony ventured out to other countries who didn't necessarily spoke English, and in Dutch learn a lot of languages, so I could help interpret and ease that. So that also was a good fit for me. But it was I like challenges, I guess. That's one. So it was the challenge of stepping into something that's uncertain. And it was also the challenge to get accepted because in the beginning, a lot of people made fun of my accent and were going like, what? So that was like, and granted, I spoke a British, Dutch, English. So it was a little bit different than it's now. But I still have my accent. I'm proud of it now. So that was the challenge of overcoming those. But once I was a little bit more settled in, it was for me the ultimate playground of helping people who were willing to let me help them. And it gave me enormous growth and contribution and connection and, variety, because there's a variety of like challenges and problems in the world. And I really saw the results. So I could give them something tangible to change their life with, even when it was a little bit, a little thing to change. So that gave me an enormous sense of fulfillment while being in an environment where there were a lot of like-minded people. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I always felt that I didn't belong to the household, to the family I was born into. I didn't belong to the group of friends I was associated with. I always felt like on the outside most of the time. And all of a sudden, I could help people, which I love. And I was with like-minded people who were just like me. And on top of that, I traveled the world. So it was a golden combination of all things, but the chance of, I still work in this field in a different way, but it's presented to you at an event every day. There were like 10, 12, 15, 20 people I spoke with, and I could help. And in normal day-to-day life, if you have one a day or two a day, or like me, like when I'm working 3 or 4 a day, that's it, right? So it was an enormous opportunity to do what I love most and to help people see other possibilities than they currently were seeing. And that is very addictive.
Yes, that energy, because it sounds like you've always been someone who has been in service. So you were in service to your parents.
Yeah,
You were probably in service to your children.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, it does feel good when we help others and we can feel that I made a difference.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, you saw so many people, and that's also a lot of stress, I would think. It's if you have 4 clients in a day, that's a lot. But here you have so many that you have to work with. How do you deal with, and each one is a different personality, and how do you deal with that, Connie, on a regular basis?
So eventually, after 25 years, I said, it's enough. I know this wreaks havoc on your body, so I do recognize that. But it was a matter of pride that you could, but also like I was able, and I think that's one of the strengths of my mentor as well, to see patterns. So instead of having this overwhelming, like, okay, there's 10, 12, 15 people all with different problems, I could like see the patterns they were running. And the patterns, whether it's a company, whether it's a family, whether it's like a single person, are all the same.
So
So
give me an example of some patterns that were common that would
yeah,
come up.
so a lot of people have a voice in their head, whether they acknowledge it or not, but it's usually a negative voice, and a voice that says you cannot do that, or be careful, you better stay away from that, or keep yourself safe, don't do that. Now that voice might be sometimes helpful, but most of the time it's not helpful. And it keeps you from doing the things you might like to explore. That keeps you in the same, like on the same path, right? So that voice is like a question you ask yourself, questions you ask yourself on a daily basis, very regularly. And when you bring those questions to the awareness of people, they can answer them and move on, and not just hear that voice like, why are you doing this? Or saying, well, are you sure you're good enough? Are you sure you can do it? Those questions will never be answered in your head when you're not aware of it. They only create doubt in your head. And when you have them in your awareness, you can do something about it.
So we really do. I mean, we can create soap operas in our heads every day, right?
Yeah.
So we had started off this podcast where I said, tell me about your childhood. And I'm wondering, when people come to a seminar because they want to um, move on in their life, or they know they're not happy, is it important in order for us to, you know, it can realize what's going on? Do we have to go back Do we really need to go back to all the pain and the sorrow and all the things that happened to us years ago in order to move forward?
That is a broad question, but I will answer it because that's the difference between the work I do and a therapist. A therapist always finds the answer in the back, always go back to the pain and always, and it's a lengthy process. And it's like bringing people through pain and hurt that is, they don't like it, you know?
Right.
Having said that, sometimes a little bit of pain in a short amount of time is great to give them leverage for change. But there has to be something really positive on the other side to make them follow through and to make them want it long term. So going back in the pain long term and all the time, no, not a fan. Not a fan at all. It's like noticing what patterns you're running based on the past, but we don't go into the hurt. So it's like my really, I'm fascinated by it, is your subconscious mind. And in your subconscious mind, that rules you for 90% at least every single moment of your life. So that subconscious mind has everything stored out of like things that were intense, joy or pain or repetition. It gets stored. It doesn't have a filter. So everything gets stored, right? So when a situation is just looking the same, feeling the same, smelling the same, then the subconscious mind's got the answer, this, and this. But the answer might have been good when you were 2 or 16 or 20 and not at our age. So when you know those patterns that sometimes are born out of pain, then you go, well, the pattern needs to be adjusted. I cannot change the past, but I can change how you deal with it. I can change how you feel about it. You can put it to rest, and then you can just change your pattern in making different choices and conscious choices in your life. So that is the very simple procedure.
All right. So we're talking about changing a pattern,
Yeah.
right? Give me an example. I'm coming to you and telling you stories of, things that happened or decisions that I'm afraid to make or whatever. What Give me an example of that we continue on with the same patterns.
Yeah. I'll give you two.
Okay.
There was this young man in London, and he came from another country, but he had a British citizenship, and he wanted to set up a program to teach children and young adults about finances and be financially responsible and to create financial certainty. So beautiful. And he was passionate about it. He was wonderful about it, but he never really did it. So when I went in and started asking questions and we came to the voice, and the voice was, you can never do it. Just be simple, just be like, be normal, be simple. You can never do this, you can never pull it off. And we recognized that was the voice of his father that said that over and over and over again with the intent to protect his son, not out of malice, but he wanted to protect his son. And once we identified that, and that was the one choice your subconscious had, well, don't do it. And when we presented it with another choice and say, well, that is a pattern your father installed or, by repetition in your brain, you can listen to it or you can say, well, that's the voice of reason and the voice of, I have to investigate and to prepare very carefully so to take it in another way. But yes, I'm qualified. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I'm passionate about it. So there were different choices to mitigate and to work with that voice as a pattern in a different way. So that's one. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So now another one it's my favorite. It was a beautiful woman, single, 6 children, had 2 beauty clinics. She's a doctor, and she was very good in her work. She had 2 or 3 at a time. So it's very good in like, having the right team, having the right pep talks, having the structure, knowing everybody needed to do every morning a meeting, and then tuck, 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 everybody knew it, and she was on top of everything. So she tried to rule her household the same way. And to her surprise, the kids didn't respond well to that. So she was used out of habit to lead like a couple of companies in a very successful way. But when she took that pattern and tried to do it at home with her children, the effect was very different. So she was so conditioned in her pattern to do it that way that she didn't even see that with children, with your own children, she had a couple of adopted ones too, then you have to approach things differently. So out of recognition of this is a pattern that works in business, makes me very successful in business, makes me very unsuccessful in my household with my kids. What pattern can I develop next to it that works in my household? So sometimes when people are very, very good at one point, they think they have the same behavior, the same systems everywhere. One more example, if you allow me.
Yeah, please.
A very, very high profile lawyer in the Netherlands. Amazing career, amazing results. He was really one of the best in the Netherlands. He had marital problems because as a lawyer, he came home to his wife and took his attitude, his behavior, the systems he had as a lawyer home. And his wife didn't like that he was questioning her and didn't believe her and was really investigating if she really told the truth, right? That's what a lawyer has to do. So once he noticed that that behavior was amazing, that pattern was amazing in his job, but not towards his wife, everything was okay.
Yes. So those examples are really from different areas, but they really are all the same in a way.
Very.
Exactly. So how important then when somebody is uncomfortable, they're not happy, they know something is wrong. And is that enough, or do they need to have a why? They need to have a reason in to make changes. Do they have to have something to focus at once they have that aha knowledge that they're running a pattern?
So often for people to have that aha moment is enough to want to change. For some people, they have a saying in Germany is that a door keeps on laying on a nail until it pierces his skin. Then he's going to do so only uncomfortable. Ugh, that is for some people not enough. And then you have to go, why do you want to change? Why is this important for you? Do you really want to change? You don't have to. And for a lot of people, it's also important to know that they don't change who they are. They usually change their behavior and their perspective and expectations.
Wow, that's really big. Say that again, because I think sometimes we're fearful that if we're going to make a change, we're going to really need to change who we are.
Yeah, no, your core doesn't need to change. But we've built up by all the years we're on earth, we've built up like systems, right? So with this person I'm going to be this way, with that person and you do that subconsciously, you don't do that consciously, and you build up your behavior. It starts in your childhood. Behavior is very conditioned. If you are good at potty training, you get praise, right? It's like I do something good, so therefore they like me. So that it's like inbuilt. So behavior is like adaptable, behavior is changeable for the most people. It's just the behavior they need to change, or they need to bring parts of themselves that are there but are like, really pushed down and not really utilized a lot. They have to bring that to the foreground again. But the core of who you are stays the core of who you are. Now, I haven't done like really in-depth research in criminals, but I'm pretty sure that if you're not mentally challenged, that is true for the majority, the vast majority of people.
I was actually going to ask you, not criminals, but you know the word narcissist? There are a lot of narcissists out there.
Yeah.
Um, and I have heard that they don't change very easily.
No.
And I'm wondering whether it's enough for that person with that label to be able to recognize, and can they recognize?
Okay. So there is a really big difference between being a true narcissist or people with narcissistic behavior. So, and we often label narcissistic behavior with being a narcissist.
Right?
You're true a narcissist, and you get what you want every time by your narcissistic behavior. There's no reason to change. And with narcissists, they don't have a lot of feelings, so they don't feel they do something wrong. They don't feel they disappoint you. They don't feel that they hurt you. They're just focusing, what can I get out of this situation? How can I manipulate this person so I get what I want? And as long as I get what I want, I'm okay. So a true narcissist, you ask, well, do you have to have a reason to change? They can change, but it's very tough to find a reason for them to want to change because they don't see any harm in their behavior. There is that compassionate part that we have that is missing. And that is for us with compassion and very hard to understand.
That's really interesting. It's they're missing the compassionate part. And so often, let's talk about a couple. There may be the one person who has the narcissistic behavior, and the other person is a very compassionate, loving, giving person, of course, because
Yeah, that
that's
it's
her role until, let's say, she wakes up one day and says, "Oh, I can't take this no more."
and it's very hard to come to that decision because, especially in the beginning years, they are so loving and so charming and so, presenting you with an ideal picture of what like a partner is in business and predominantly in relationships. They're very, very good actors, but their intention is to lure you into giving them what they want. So when you finally do wake up, it's a matter, and you're so conditioned already in this is normal, this is how it is. And when you educate yourself and you feel that you're not totally happy, then yes, you can set your boundaries. But that's a very tough thing to do. You need a little bit of help in doing that because they present it to you when you set your boundaries that you're crazy and you're silly and you're not good enough and you are, well, probably, right? They present it so you think that you ask too much or it's not okay to set your boundaries. So they're very manipulative people. And they also present themselves to the outside world probably differently at one stage than they present themselves to their partner. So they make the outside world believe that they're fantastic and your spouse is crazy.
And what happens to the children that grow up in that relationship? Do children tend, from your experience, to pick up those narcissistic tendencies themselves, or not necessarily, or it depends if they're, and how do they even handle the father? I'm using father as an example because he's the papa and he's in control and they want papa to love them. How do they even have a healthy relationship? Is there such a thing?
And probably if you use the word healthy, I don't think there is a healthy relationship possible. There's a relationship possible, but it's then the job, in this case of the example of the mother, to teach them that this is one model of being and it's not the best model. And that there's different models out there of being a father or being a mother, of being a good partner and spouse. And that takes a lot of like strength and willpower to show your children, because your children may not be born narcissists. They see the behavior and they model some behavior. So then it's up to half of the partnership to show that that's not the only model. That's you there too. And here's how I can do it. So
But
it's
I think the problem, sorry to interrupt you, is that the half, and in this case, it's the wife, may not even realize for years, so he's grumpy or he's this or he's that.
yeah.
We live in denial very often.
But even when you label it grumpy, you can also with your kids say, well, being grumpy is a choice and it's a hard choice for your father, but you can make your own choice. You
I
can be grumpy or you can be this or that.
I really like that statement. I think it's so important for people to hear that. Say it again
But
about the fact
okay,
that the kid that the mother says to the child, okay, this behavior that you see right now is not acceptable or whatever the words are.
your only choice. So you can say to your child, even if you don't have the right words for it and you just label it as grumpy or, you know,
Yeah,
indifferent or whatever, you can say, and there's other examples too. You can say, well, you know what, your father is really grumpy, and that's his choice. That doesn't mean that that's the only choice. You can choose to be grumpy or you can choose to be something else. It's up to you. So you present them already with different choices.
with different choices.
Yeah,
I think that's really so important because I think sometimes people are stuck and they just don't know what to do, you know.
subconscious, one way, there's no other way. Yes, there are other ways, plenty of other ways. And I also am a firm believer. I had my baby girl died long time ago. I'm totally okay, but it was dramatic, very dramatic for a long time. But I've learned it gave me a lot of solace to read the book Sacred Contracts. And Sacred Contracts is a pill. But the concept is that when a child is about to be born, an angel go to a place where all the souls are, right? And the angel comes in with a contract and they say to the souls, in this lifetime, you will go through this, this, and this, and this. Who is willing to take that on? And there's always a soul that is willing to take that on out of karma or whatnot or out of learning. So it's my belief that children can learn. And it's my belief that they're well equipped to overcome whatever they need to overcome. Now, I know horrible examples, not only a grumpy father, right? But
Right.
horrible examples. And sometimes that's very tough. But there's one brave soul who took that on.
So I know the expression, which is similar, where they say we choose our parents
Yeah,
for the life lessons we have to learn.
yeah, yeah, similar.
But, and if someone is now, let's say they're in their 20s and they were raised and they had no idea, that they just knew their father was grumpy or this or that. And now they're adults and want to have a relationship with grumpy father, but unless they suck up to him, there is no relationship. Is that right?
And it's a very conditional relationship. And if they want
Conditional.
that very conditional relationship, by all means, but they know what it takes to get that relationship. And it's not unconditional, it's not free. It's like, I can have a relationship when I do what he wants, or when I accept his grumpiness, or when I go like, I can only take half an hour and I see him a half an hour a week, or even. So it's like knowing if you want that relationship and your family, you cannot deny that, but then they know that there are conditions attached to a relationship. And the question is, are you willing to take that on? You don't have to, but if you want to, that's what needs to happen.
I think that's really so important to understand because sometimes we want to fix the other person. We want to sit down and explain to them,
Yeah.
how I'm feeling, and we want them to feel and understand what we're saying. Why don't they understand? I just told them, that
Yeah.
they're insensitive, non-caring, etc. And
No,
they don't hear me.
yeah, not gonna happen.
Not going to happen.
No. Then
Wow.
they are like, underlying, like have a good heart and just have a hard life. Yeah, sure, you can do that. But when there is like behavior or personality disorders, that's a whole different ballgame.
I think it's so important for people to hear that. I think there's so much frustration out there when we see the pattern, or we recognize something that's been going on for a long time. We want to fix that we want to help. We're compassionate. Listen, we're compassionate people, so we want to help,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we can't.
But help where help is wanted and not where you think it's needed.
Wow, that's a really important statement too, Connie. Help where help is wanted, not where you think it's needed. How many of us do that?
Absolutely.
I think that's so important to remember because we want to fix people.
Yep.
The
You
pattern, the
people.
pattern. If you're the fixer, if you're the child and you've been the fixer and tried to do everything good for your parents, so you want to fix everybody, then you want to fix your friends, you want to fix your spouse.
Not gonna work. Only when they're open to it, yeah, you have an entry. So, and some people, like you said, to make the circle round, is they're afraid of change, right? So they don't want to change, period. And if they don't want to change, then leave them be. Love them anyway, because that's your part, but don't expect the things that they cannot give.
Well, not wanting to change, I mean, who would I be if I wasn't a fixer? If that's my persona and the personality I've taken on, I'd have to find out something else. And that's
And,
scary.
and find people that want to fix. There's plenty around.
Just stay as you are. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but be smart enough to go, well, here I'm not wanted. So I go where I'm wanted.
That's a great statement. That's really a great statement. So if you're not ready to make a change, just go where you're happy, where it fulfills you.
Yeah,
Whether it would fulfill somebody else or not is a different story. But
exactly. Because being on the outside, we know so well what that other person needs. We know it, right? It's not rocket science. We know it. But if that person doesn't want it themselves, then you waste your energy.
right,
Just love them at
absolutely.
least, or take them in very small increments.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. So, Connie, we could probably talk for hours. Is there anything that you feel that a message that you'd like to leave to our audience? A pearl of wisdom? You've had so many different types of people that you have worked with in your past. And what do you think?
I think that the most important is to really work is not a good word, but to, find peace and happiness in your own life. Everything you do outside work or the wish to help or fix, that should be extra. But if you find the peace and the contentment and the happiness and the joy, however you want to call it, in yourself, in your own life, you do good. However that life looks like. because so many of us live in postponement. So when I have the biggest house, or when I have a house in a specific place, or when I have a lot of friends, or I have the perfect partner, or I'm a perfect weight, or, and we can say that when I have no wrinkles, and although you look fantastic, and then my life is good. So we live in postponement. It's just you as a person. You present yourself in this life right now, how you are, in this way. If you're not happy with it, go change it. But make sure that you appreciate where you are right now. And from there, you can like make changes if you wish. But love yourself how you are. If you want more, go make it happen.
That's really, love yourself as you are. So many of us don't even know what that means.
Exactly. Because we live in an external world that has certain standards in finances, in beauty, in health, in relationships, in friendships. And when you do not fit in that model, then you could conclude that you're not good enough or that you're not happy instead of making your own model.
So let's say you realize that you're not happy and now you want to do something. There are the opportunities to go to workshops and you spend a few days and you are in this energy of sis boom ba. And now I feel really, wow, this is great. And I come home, and within a short period of time, I seem to be back again to my old patterns, right?
Yeah, because it's like when you have that external fix, right? And then you come back to your house where there's a lot of anchors, conditions. So you're conditioned to have a certain way how you eat breakfast. You're conditioned to, what you watch television or whatever. There's conditions in your house and they're anchors. And if you're not aware of like, I need to change it, I need to whatever, throw out my television if you wish, right? Or, clean out my fridge and my cupboards if you want to eat more healthy, or, whatever you need to do, you need to make those changes in your house as well. Because otherwise you get back into that pattern that you had before that is strong. And you have that new pattern that is like a little seedling still, and that you have really strong patterns here, little seedling. You need to nourish that seedling and give it all the chance to grow. If you don't do that, the old patterns take over.
So, do you think it's important to work with somebody, to find someone that you can work with that can be someone you can talk with or who can help explain your patterns and get you on a solid ground? Because I think when we first start off, sometimes we're on shaky ground
Yeah,
and we keep shaking, and that's exhausting.
it is. And another person that is not emotionally involved can see the patterns better than when you're emotionally involved. So yeah, the minimum is an accountability buddy. And the best is to have like somebody professional who is taking you under their wings and go, okay, what do you really want? What are you willing to let go? What is your new path and how can we do that?
I think that's, sometimes we go even to a certain type of therapist and we can stay a prisoner there also
Yeah,
forever. They can keep us there because
be
there's
careful.
always problems in life going on.
Yeah.
I,
And it's like, I have different types of clients. I have clients, emergency clients. There's something going on, will work, and they have a good solution and they go back. And I also have a type of client who wants the maintenance and just catches things where but they're still small. So I have maintenance clients too. So we're already searching for things that otherwise could have been an emergency. Now they're not. So it just depends what fits in your life and how you like it.
I think people don't realize that they need to find someone that there is a rapport, if we want to use that word. You spend time going shopping for shoes, but you might go to the first therapist or the first whatever, and you don't even ask, you're embarrassed to ask questions, and you get, you're not moving forward.
And moving forward is important. That's the way to go. So, yeah, start shopping. Don't take the first bargain that is presented to you, right? The Black Friday deals, some of them are good, some of them are not good. Yeah.
So let me ask you, are there questions, specific questions that people should ask if they're shopping?
Shopping for shoes or for therapists or both?
I don't know if you have shoe expertise too. I mean, we can
Yeah.
go there.
Well, there's two things. There always need to be a trust and a respect. So respect is when you can show, yes, I've studied. Yes, I have experience. Yes, I have a method. Yes, I know what to do. That's one thing. That's a technical part, right? But then the trust is like you mentioned before already, there needs to be a connection. There need to be a rapport. There need to be the knowing that your person, your therapist, or however you call that person, is there for you to help you, to be your cheerleader, to help you find answers. That's, I think, the most important.
Wonderful. Well, you've given us a lot of pearls of wisdom today, Connie, and I want to thank you. I know that it's going to make the difference in the lives of certain people that are watching, and they're going to be able to say, wow, I got my answer today of the next step for me. And because we're in this helping profession of helping people, I really want to thank you, because I think your words today were just absolutely amazing.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. My pleasure. I loved it. And I wish you all the luck in like creating a greater, even greater audience. And well done on what you took on. That's awesome. It's really
Thank you.
that you're there
Thank you. Thank you.
to present this to your audience. Well done, Hindi. My pleasure.